Mr. Steele, nice to have you with us.
Free, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Well, let's begin with the governor's race. John Cox, it's John Cox against Gavin Newsom, but Cox only has about 1/10 of the campaign money that Newsom has. So what does John Cox need to do to prevail in November?
Well, first of all, Cox came from way behind. Frankly, none of us in the party thought either Republican would have a chance to get up there, and they came in the top four, two of the top four. The big oddity was Villaraigosa. We thought it was going to be Democrats all the way. Cox is really holding the message. He's put something together that makes a lot of sense to Democrats as well, and decline the states. And he's talking about the hollowing out of the middle class. That is the war against the middle class. To win, there's a lot of vulnerabilities. Newsom certainly didn't have a majority of Democrats behind him. So he comes out with that. He's also a San Francisco Democrat. Now, in San Francisco, that's a great thing. Outside of San Francisco, not so great, because most folks understand that San Francisco's turned into kind of a trash town. High disease rate, high alcohol. We got tent cities. It's really dysfunctional. You need a hazmat suit in certain parts of town. That's no exaggeration. That's according to the Chronicle.
But we've heard this message before, though, right, Mr. Steele? I mean, let's look back at 2014, for example. Republican Neil Kashkari challenged Governor Jerry Brown. He also blamed the so-called California mess on Governor Brown. It didn't work. Kashkari lost. What do you think will be different this time if that's the message that John Cox is sending?
Good point. Kashkari is no longer in California. He was kind of a come from behind. We never heard of him before or since. He was actually appointed by Obama to another job to the Federal Reserve. Jerry Brown, it did get worse. It got a lot worse. Millions have left California in the last 20 years, 4 million to be exact, but it's really accelerated in the last 2 years, particularly. More people are leaving California than coming to California, and these are mostly breadwinners, middle-class folks. Now, John Cox is going to have to get some serious money together. Luckily, he's a wealthy developer, and so he's got a reported wealth of $200 million. So he certainly is going to be there with his own money. Republican Governors Association would love nothing better to give Gavin Newsom a hard time, because Gavin's not running for governor. We know that. He's running for president. Automatically, when you're governor of California, you're always considered presidential material. Even Jerry Brown thought so.
Well, he has said on this program that he is not running for president. But as you know, we can't predict the future. Well, let me ask you about John Cox again. He rose in, since we're speaking of presidents, President Trump endorsed him during the election. We saw John Cox rise in the polls shortly after that. Will the Republican National Committee ask President Trump to come to California to campaign on behalf of John Cox in the governor's race and in other races around the state?
Probably Trump would be best served in Orange County. Trump, had he had the time, he would have campaigned in Orange County and probably carried it nicely. But Trump made an intelligent decision during the presidential campaign. You campaign where the votes are most likely to get the Electoral College. So he is popular in Orange County. It's turned around in the last year. He's been an effective president. Even Democrats have to admit it's the best unemployment ratio in 2 generations. African Americans have never been so fully employed since they started measuring the metric. Foreign policy.
Will you ask President Trump, though, to come to California to campaign on behalf of John Cox and other Republican candidates?
I'm going to let John Cox figure that out. My guess is Trump's numbers are negative in L.A. County and San Francisco, and that's about half the votes right there, maybe 60% of the votes. I would have Trump come to Orange County, where he's popular, and we got 4 congressional races that are up for grabs. And I think it would help us. But Cox, I tell you, maybe Trump will do fundraisers for him, and he certainly would pack the House.
Well, let's talk about the congressional races since you brought those up. What are your biggest takeaways there, especially in the 7 GOP-held seats that Democrats are hoping to flip in November?
Well, first of all, every single Republican seat except for one that are under challenge, 7 of them, a majority of voters voted for the Republicans who are running against the Democrats. That's a real tell for the fall. Secondly, in Orange County, there's 4 congressional seats that's been targeted. 3 of the 4 Republicans are women. All 4 of the Democrats are men. So it's a big change where I think the party has been really smart in that. In a district that's 35% Asian American voting, I don't mean just population, but voting, that's in the Fullerton district. Ed Royce used to have. Young Kim is the candidate for the Republicans, and she did extremely well on election day. The Republicans have all endorsed her. We're going to keep that seat, and that's probably one of the toughest seats to keep in California. You have an extraordinary candidate. that's bilingual. Then in the same district, we actually kicked out a white Democrat, elected Ling Ling Cheng, and she is now the new senator for the exact same area. So now we have a Chinese-speaking senator, a Korean-speaking senator, and then not to leave that alone, we have Alexandria Coronado also running for assembly in the same area. She's Spanish-speaking, PhD. She'll do well with the Spanish committee.
But
all the Democrats are white.
But how much can you rely on Asian American voters, right? Because, you know, those that do identify with the party, they still identify as Democrats over Republicans 2-1. And you also have a situation now where the GOP is really the third party in California, behind Democrats and those who refuse to state a party affiliation. What kinds of challenges do those pose for you?
Okay, good challenges, and that's actually quite accurate in Los Angeles County. Orange County, the majority of voters are, in fact, Republican. The minority are Democrats. I should say plurality, 40% Republican, 30% Democrat. Most Asian Americans are either Republicans or decline the states. A smaller number 3, is Democrats in Orange County. Remember, in Orange County, Asian American is going to have a different set of values. So it actually is very good news that our party, you saw it in the LA Times today, is literally becoming an Asian Republican Party. That's the big growth.
All right, we will leave it there. Shawn Steele, you certainly have a lot on your mind. Thank you for joining us. Shawn Steele, Republican National Committeeman for California.